Hey, so this is a bit of a strange one. Sometimes I don't even think about recording something, and then I just feel like it's time to just record and talk for a little bit. So I'm bringing back the Northerners' fireside rants. Um, Eventually, for those of you who know what's been going on in my life, there are videos on the channel. Go check them out about me returning from the United States and things like that. Um, you know, the last year has been originally it was supposed to be a year of brand new beginnings and my life taking off and going to do things that I've always dreamed of doing. Getting married being one of them. Having a living in another country like the United States, which is where I was. This was the year all that was supposed to take off, and I was supposed to be married in June, and instead it's been a year of mostly shifting through the wreckage of that dream and coming to terms with the fact that it collapsed in on itself, and in the most non-dramatic way possible, really. There was no, before anyone said anything, there was no infidelity, there was nothing like that going on. It just didn't work out. And I've spoken about it on the channel before. I've done, podcasts and things like that, but I've never felt ready to go back to the Northerners' fireside rants, because that was something that I did on the run-up to going to America to deal with my frustration of not being able to go yet because of the coronavirus. And then the last video I made before I left was a fireside rant video where I basically said goodbye and I was gone, and that was late 2020. That was like the 26th, 27th of December 2020. And then I left, and a few months and 5 months later I was back again. Everything having imploded whilst I was over there. For those of you who don't know, if you do know, then feel free to skip ahead to any point in the video or just stop watching. But there is one announcement that I'd like to make, and that is that the Discord, the Northern Exile Discord, will no longer be Patreon only or support only. The Discord will be free to all, and I'll get to for the reasons. Well, I'll say it now because I know I'll forget. The Discord's going to be free because I want to create a space where you guys can come and talk about things that are going on in your lives and things that are happening and things that you're not happy with, and I'll create another thread on there for private things, and I'll put a password on it, and you guys can go in there and talk about whatever you like. You can vent frustrations about life. You can get life, advice, receptions to ideas, things like that. Because I get a lot of emails and I get a lot of messages saying, hey, can you help me out with this? Can you help me out with that? And I to be fair, I miss a lot of them because Gmail unfortunately, it tends to not tell me when I've got emails. So I lead a busy life with teaching, and I miss them, and I don't want to. Quite frankly, I'd rather be able to talk to you guys. So that's going to happen pretty soon. I think I'm going to do it this weekend. I'll throw it on, and there will be a link in the description below to the Discord. That's mainly what this video is for, to tell you that there's going to be a link in the description below for the Discord, and it's free, so come and say hi. And I want to do something nice for you guys, and so hopefully, you can get your if you're paying money to Patreon, you get your money's worth. If you're giving me views and things like that, you get your views worth, so to speak. And we can go over anything that you like. So for those of you who are not in the know, let's say from the time I left Games Workshop, I'd tell a lie. I'm cleaning up the timeline basically. But basically from the time I left Games Workshop, which is early to mid 2018, I was with somebody from America, and this is somebody that I'd met at university, and we'd lost contact. And then when I came back home from London, I was living in London at the time, and I came back home, back to the north of England. We got in contact again, and you know, we fell into a sort of liking of each other. You know, very intellectual. You know, the way that we were attracted to each other, it was very cerebral. We're like, oh, I like this person's politics. I like the way that they think. I like how passionate they are. I like how smart they are. And eventually, you know, physically as well, we were attracted to each other. And one thing led to another. And before you know it, in January 2019, I'm in America and I'm visiting her for the first time. We have a really nice, swanky Airbnb in a place called Lincoln Park, which is not the band Lincoln, as in Abraham Lincoln, Lincoln Park in Chicago. Really lovely area, really nice apartment that we had for 2 weeks, and you know, things went amazingly well there. I met her family, things went incredible, and I came home saying to my mom, like, you know, I'm gonna go live over there. That's what I'm gonna do. And from January of that year, I asked her to marry me in the March. She came over to Liverpool and to where I live, and I asked her to marry me on the ferry, of all things, of course, because I knew an American would like that, and you know, her parents loved it as well. And she said yes, and things were going incredibly well. And for all of 2019, I was back and forth to America. You know, I went for July the 4th, which was hilarious because I'm English. Saw lots of amazing things whilst I was over there. Had several amazing times, and really did enjoy it. And then coming into 2020, I went over there I went over there in November 2019 with my friends. So I took two of my best friends over with me because I thought, hey, I'm going to live here. I may as well show them what it's going to be like, you know. So I went over to America with my friends, two of my best friends. You may have heard them on the channel, actually. But anyway, we had a really good... And one of them's Matt, actually. So one of the friends was Matt, who plays Filberto in Black Coats, if you've watched that. And they had an amazing time, and it just convinced me the area that they lived in, like my ex's family, was very affluent, very upmarket, but incredibly nice. And it was the place that you really wanted to bring up kids in. And I was like, okay, this suits me. You know, I've landed on my feet. And then in January of 2020 or February, I was going to take my exams to get into university in the US. I took one, and actually no, I tell a lie. The passport I went with when I went to do my test was out of date, without me realizing it. Stupid mistake, but just something I hadn't checked. It'd always been in date. And I'd just been using it the year before, you know. I had no warnings on it or anything like that. So I couldn't take the test to get into America. And I had to wait for the next month. And I thought, well, no big deal. You know, I'll wait till the next month. It's one more month of studying, basically. It's okay. On the way home, on the platform, coming back from Manchester on the way home, I was standing around and I saw a few people wearing masks. And that wasn't usual. That was weird. And it was almost like the atmosphere had changed. And I was like, oh, I don't like this. Like, this is weird. And of course, coronavirus was starting. I didn't even know what coronavirus was at this stage, but it was starting. I got home that day and my cat had died too. So I was like, it was not a good day at all. Anyway, a month later, I went back and I did the exams and I passed everything with flying colours straight away. And it was then a case of me getting my visa. And then coronavirus hit properly and the lockdowns hit. And for the rest of the year, essentially, that was it. I was in the UK and I was grounded. I couldn't go anywhere. And that's where a lot of my videos started on here, was me being frustrated and bored and wanting to come on and talk. And, you know, it was a very stressful year, you know, for everybody involved. But, you know, my ex came over in July. She was here for 5-6 weeks, and we had an amazing time of her being over here. She basically lived with my family for those 6 weeks, because Americans were allowed to come over here, but we weren't allowed to go over there. We said goodbye, thinking, okay, maybe in a few months, you know, I'll be able to come over. And it got into December, and I had to go down and do my visa interview. And it was the most nerve-wracking thing I think I've ever done. I didn't sleep. I had a really an okay hotel in London. I sat in bed and I watched just random news channels, and then I watched in bed The Expanse on my phone, and I was just getting myself sorted out and ready to go, and eventually it was time to head out, and I went there, and the woman who was there said, she said, "Why are you so nervous?" Like I had something to hide. It was a really easy interview. They literally just said, "Why are you going to the US?" But she said, "Why are you so nervous?" And I was like, "I just really want this, and with coronavirus, it's been taken away from me, and now it might actually be happening. It's great." And she said, "Okay, yeah," stamped everything, and I got it, and I left. And on the train ride home, I was getting texts from all my American family now who were congratulating me and saying they couldn't wait to see me and things like that. And I went home, and Cyberpunk came out. I know it sounds weird, but Cyberpunk came out just before I did a week before I did my interview, my visa interview. And even though it was disappointing and it was incredibly shitty, it didn't seem that way at the time, because I was just so enamored with it and finally playing it that I didn't, I just didn't care. I knew it was crap compared to what it was supposed to be, but and I finished the game the night I got back from my visa interview. I finished the game, and it was almost like that entire year had culminated. My entire time in the UK had culminated in that. Like, that was the last game that my PC at the time, which was really old, was going to play before I retired it and went to America and I got a new one. And that sounds really stupid to other people, I guess, but like to me that was a big thing. This machine had been so good and had got me through so many hard times, and it had one last hurrah, and that was playing Cyberpunk, a game it had no right to play at the level that it did for as long as it did, and it did. And I was so happy that it got across the line. And I played Yes, Your Grace, on stream for a little bit, before I left, and just as a little chill out. And finally I left and I went to America, and even when I was going to America, you needed a law came in whilst I was on the way saying that you had to get a negative test to fly. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake, so. And I got to Manchester airport, and my flight to Heathrow was cancelled, so I couldn't get the one Chicago flight there was that day. So that was it. I was grounded. Luckily, I went and got a hotel at Heathrow that night, but that wasn't what I was concerned about. I was thinking, my God, what happens if I test at Heathrow and I'm positive and I've got to wait another 2 weeks? I've got to go home. I can't deal with that. I couldn't hack that. I just couldn't hack that. Little did I know I was going to have to do something much harder 5 months later. But, like, at the time, I just couldn't, So, anyway, I did the test and it was negative. But I remember sitting there shitting myself. Literally, I've never been this scared before from anything. And I was looking at my phone, refreshing it, waiting for the result to come through. And finally it said, "You've tested negative." And I just couldn't believe it, and I was so happy. And I went to the hotel, and I remember there was another woman at the hotel who was in a similar situation to me. She was trying to go to another country, and she couldn't because she was a young I think she was Arabic. Anyway, she didn't know where to go to get her test and all that, so I took her to a hotel where she could get tested and things like that, which was in the airport, and then I left her to it, basically. I got, and then I went to my own hotel room, chilled out, slept, and the next morning, I just remember getting up, breezing downstairs. It was so easy. I knew I was getting on the flight, I knew everything was fine. The anticipation was so charged. I was ready to go. I had all my stuff, and finally I got on the plane. I remember getting breakfast that morning, and I got on the plane. I had the breakfast at Heathrow, sat down in this restaurant, and thought, okay, here we go. I'm on the plane. Then I was on the plane, and I was going, and I was So happy. And then I watched, on the plane, I watched The Dark Knight, because, why wouldn't you? And I watched, I can't remember what else I watched. I think it was The Dark Knight and something else. Yeah, Dark Knight and something else. So anyway, I got off the plane and saw my wife to be, and I was so happy. And we went to a hotel the first few nights, and enjoyed that very much, obviously. And we ate burgers and takeout and chilled out, and then finally went back to her parents' place, and I was living there, and things were great for the first couple of months. Things were going okay. Then friction started a little bit after that. It wasn't perfect. We would argue. We were living in the same room all the time. We would argue every now and again. And we would get on each other's nerves every now and again, because we weren't used to living with each other in that confined space. Work pressure was getting to us a little bit too, and the pressure of the wedding and stuff, and that was coming up. And in the end, we ended up postponing the wedding by a year to 2022. So that should have been a warning sign for me. Now that I think about it, I should have, because that was her suggestion, and I came around to it. But I was like, I made her promise me that she wasn't thinking about calling it off. She was like, no, it's not that at all. Like, it definitely isn't. Like, I just want to, I want to have everyone there after coronavirus. I could go into detail about arguments and things like that, but there's no point. Like, put it this way. The morning she told me, like, she says, you don't seem happy, and I don't seem happy, and I'm not happy because, this isn't what I thought it'd be. And, I shit myself. I'm going to be completely honest, 'cause I didn't want to lose her, and I didn't want to lose the situation, and I loved living there, and I loved her, obviously. And I just couldn't stand the thought of losing her, so I was like, okay, well, let's see what's going to happen here, and let's go through and see how we're going to go. And she said, yeah, okay, let's give it another go and see. And in that next week, I had an amazing time. In that next week, I was still pretty nervous because of the way that things had gone and what she'd said. But like the week after that, I was having such a good time, and I was putting my best foot forward, and it seemed like she was as well. And then on the Friday of that week, I shit you not, on the Friday of that week, I was sitting there, and things were getting a bit hot and heavy, in a good way. And she said, I'm just not ready to do this yet. Not yet. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just getting my brain back into relationship mode, and I'm not really there yet. I was like, yeah, it's okay. We can leave it and revisit this, and it's fine. And she just said, yeah, I'm just really sorry. I'm just not feeling it right now. I said, yeah, okay, no problem. And she left to go out with her mum and her sister. And I was left in the house on my own. And me and her dad, and we're still friends, he's a legend. And we talk, me and her dad talk every week on the phone. We actually talked last night. And we were going to go for a pint that night, because we did every single Friday. And I was sitting in the room on my own upstairs, and something had changed. I could feel it. Like, I was like, that didn't feel good. That didn't feel good. I think this is, like, I think she's going to call it. Like dead man walking, I was like, that didn't feel good at all. So I went downstairs, and I remember the house was quite dark, but I was in such a bad place. I didn't want to switch the lights on. I just sat there in the front room, and outside their window there was an American flag, and it's blowing, and it was getting dark, and it was blowing, and I was looking at that American flag thinking, I've lost this, haven't I? Like, this is gone. And I went through the rest of the night in sort of a haze, and then I got home, and the next morning she was playing on my PC, and she was playing Dragon Age and Inquisition, ironically, which is why I couldn't play it until now. And she got off the computer and came over and lay down next to me, and she said, look, I've been thinking about things, and you know what, there was some weird part of me that was like, oh, maybe she's now going to say she's ready to like fully commit to this again or whatever. No, it was the other way around, and I'm going to switch off this music because it's really starting to piss me off that it's there's an ad every 3 seconds. Um, like I literally thought, okay, like, maybe, she's going to say, hey, let's do this again, but it was the other way around. It was no, I'm done. Like, I can't do this. Like, this isn't what I want. And I'm not gonna lie. That was a hard day. That was a hard day. All those times and all those memories of like lying in the grass on 4th of July and seeing all of the fireworks and you know going out drinking with her and her friends and watching music and watching movies and getting to know each other, all that hard work that I'd spent to get over to the United States in the first place, all that effort and heartbreak and obsessive studying and putting myself through the emotional ringer to get over there, and it was all gone. And I remember she gave me that news and then left. And to be and also gave me that news and said, look, you can stay here for as long as you like until you figure out what you want to do. Like, no one's going to kick you out. And I was like, okay, fair enough. I mean, let's be honest with you. That's like the least I deserve. Like, so, so anyway, she leaves and there's no one in the house at this point, and I shit you not, I would never have the balls to kill myself or harm myself. I just wouldn't. I don't have the guts, and I'm too much of a scaredy cat. I don't like pain. But if someone had given me a switch and said, okay, if you flick that switch, then you're going to disappear, and no one's ever going to be hurt. You would never have existed, and you'll be gone, be oblivion, you'll be gone. There was a few minutes where I would have done it. Without a second thought, I would have done it. It hurt that much. Like, it hurt that much. It was like the walls of my world had just come tumbling in, and I didn't know what to do. I don't cry very often, but I was then. I just couldn't believe what was happening. And then I phoned my mum. I video called my mum. And she couldn't believe it either. She was just flabbergasted, on my side, obviously, but flabbergasted. And I left the house because I couldn't see any of them. I just couldn't. So I left the house. No one was in. I left the house and it was raining. And I remember walking around the town. Very lovely town, obviously, but I went walking around the streets and I went to get lost, basically. I was just walking and walking and walking and walking in the rain, just aimlessly thinking and not thinking almost at the same time. I phoned my sister and she coached me through a little bit of it too. And I was getting texts from her family saying, hey, are you okay? Like, where are you? And I just didn't want to speak to them. I just carried on walking. I just couldn't do it. And then eventually, I had to sleep. So I had to sleep somewhere. And I remembered that WrestleMania was on that night. So I clung to that. Even though I don't really like WWE anymore. But I always watch WrestleMania every year, and I clung to that. And I went home. And I got myself a sandwich from my favourite deli store. And I went home. I went upstairs. And I ate my sandwich. And I watched WrestleMania on my own. And I was enjoying it. I was really enjoying it. And I was just chilling out and getting to know it and do my own thing and have some fun. And, I just kind of melted into it and just watched the thing. And I remember she came in during it, and I didn't want to speak to her. You know, I was done. I was done. You know, I didn't want to speak to her. And, you know, she said to me, I always remember she said, when you get published, do you mind if I come and get my book signed? Now, bear in mind, I had no idea at that stage that I was going to be published or if I was ever going to be published or anything. And I said, sure. You know. And I had a bit of a cry, and so did she. And we had a cuddle, and then she left. And I went back to watching WrestleMania. And then, eventually, I went downstairs, and, you know, I could tell her mum and dad had been crying. And I was just talking to them, and they were like, you know, they were like, wow, you're being so amazing about all this, like, you know. And I was like, well, what else am I supposed to do? Like, punch a hole in the wall? Like, what am I supposed to do? You know. So I just got on with it, and we went for a beer, me and her dad, that night, on the Saturday night. We got drunk. You know, I went home, and we were staying in the same bed, of course, so I went to bed to sleep. And from then on in, it was a very awkward couple of months. So I had to finish my qualification, my teaching qualification, and come back to the UK. Ended up a month or two after that dating someone else without her knowing, obviously. I didn't rub that in. And it wasn't even that. It was mainly the woman who I was seeing was just out of a marriage. So, you know, it was like two people just finding comfort in each other, basically. And it was just a really horrible, awkward situation. I had good days too, don't get me wrong. I had okay days where things were going okay. But I still had this open, gushing wound in me, and towards the end, it was the 27th of May when I finally got on the plane, and, you know, the date was crawling nearer and nearer and nearer, and I didn't want to go. Like, I loved the country, I loved being there, but I just, you know, that morning I got up, and, like, the few days before, it was almost like I was being executed. It really felt like, you know, like I was leaving, I was dying or something. Touch wood, doesn't happen, but, like, obviously I felt like I was passing away, because the last few days, you know, it was just really bad for me, and I've never been that sad or damaged. And I'm not a praying person, but I pray I never will be again, because, you know, I couldn't handle that again. So on the night before, you know, we went out for a Japanese meal, just me and her. And I've been trying to get this for a while, but she'd always been busy, you know, with other things, friends and family and stuff. And I was saying to her dad, you know, I think it's hitting home now how little she actually just cares, you know. I just because she couldn't even give me a sit down meal and a talk before I left. It was like she just wanted me gone at that stage. And I didn't want to get back with her or anything. I just wanted to say goodbye properly. So anyway, we went for a meal the night before, and you know, it was fine. It was just a bit awkward. We didn't really say very much, and then the next morning, that night I went to bed, and I didn't want to sleep. I didn't want to sleep because if I slept, then the next day would come, and I'd have to leave. And I did fall asleep, and the next day did come, and then before I knew it, I was sitting downstairs. We went for breakfast, and we came back. Me and her, and we came back. And, you know, we started to leave, and I remember when it was time to go, her like, I don't know what I was expecting, but when it was time to go, like, she, like, sort of gave me like a half hug, you know. and I just like picked up my stuff and got in the car, and I drove to the airport with her dad. And her dad, I could tell, was beside himself basically because we were really close. And we got there, and he started crying when we got to the terminal. And then I got on the plane, and it was a long, long way home. It was very difficult. It was very, very difficult. And I got back, and the rest you guys know. The rest you guys are aware of. Like if you've seen the channel since, that was my time, and I don't even know why I've come on and talked about it again. It's just good for me. And I figured that with me doing the Discord, if you guys want to come on and talk about whatever you want to talk about, doesn't have to be serious. It could be whatever you want to talk about. I thought it'd be best for me to open myself up first and talk about something that's really bothering me. The reason why I'm doing it today is because today's Thanksgiving, and every day that it would have been my first something is hard. Like my wedding day would have been June the 20th. That was difficult. You know, my wedding day was going to be June the 20th. That would have been really, really hard. And then after that, her birthday was in October. That was also really difficult. And of course today is Thanksgiving, which would have been my first Thanksgiving. Since I've gotten back, I've gone to therapy quite a lot. And I've spoken a lot more candidly with my therapist, obviously, about what happened, and I'm a big self-loather. I don't like myself a lot, if at all. I really don't like myself. I don't think I'm not great of a person, and so when I tell him about the relationship and how it broke apart, I'm always very harsh on myself. I'm very, very, and I still think that way. I still think it was mainly my fault. But he says to me, from what you've been telling me, it's at least 60-40 her fault. And you're being nice. And I know you're being nice because you hate yourself. So that's what I've been going through since I've been back. I've been doing therapy and working things out and sifting through the wreckage of what should have been, what could have been, and trying to find a way to move forward. I'm working now. I'm teaching, but there are some days where I walk to the train station and it's dark because it's Britain, and I just think I miss her so much, and I miss the living over there so much, and I miss everything about, even before I went over there, I had something to aim for. There was something there that I had to strive towards. There was always something on the horizon ready for me. And to have that all stripped away is extremely scary. Because I live with my grandpa at the moment. I look after him when I'm not working. And it's great. But I don't really have anyone around me who is, my own age and my own, to talk to. Because obviously, he's in his late 80s. Like, there's only so much you can talk about. We talk about football and things like that, but the deeper things in life, the things that I actually will intellectually stimulate me and make me feel a lot less lonely, I can't go to him about, obviously. So sometimes it gets to me that way. And I think, thinking about where I was, how the mighty have fallen, sort of a thing, and there's also a thing about America, right? And I'll tell you this, for nothing. and that's that America has a night and day cycle during the winter, which means the sun rises at around 7:30, the sun sets at around 6:30, and that's the same year round, right? So you're always coming home normally when it's light outside still, and you're always going to work normally when it's light outside. With me, when I'm going to and from work, it's pitch black, and that's, for me, my mental health. That's not good, And trying to find, and when I'm, there's nothing more lonely when I'm walking to work in the morning and I'm trying to, and my mind's running about how much I miss, her and the situation, and having something there to aim for, to hold, and say, look, this is mine, and I'm working towards it, and I'm making it happen. Right now I've got nothing. Right now I've got my I'm teaching, but what for? You know, I'm just teaching for the sake of getting some money in the bank, I guess. But there's no aim, there's no end goal. It's like I'm adrift and I'm just floating, like driftwood, just bobbing up and down and not really knowing what to do. And yeah, it's difficult at times. It's difficult. And there are good days, and I know tomorrow will be a good day because it's Friday, and I'll get home and it'll be a salve on the wound sort of a thing. And I'll be okay, and I'll be fine. But I just feel that sometimes I'll have bad days, and I felt today was a good day to come on and talk to you all about it because you've been really good to me, and I love each and every one of you, some more than others. I'm only kidding. But no, I really do. Like, you really do. You guys mean a lot to me. Um, even if I've never spoken to you and we've only exchanged comments, you really do mean a lot to me. And it really does gladden the heart to talk to people and converse with people. And sometimes it can be draining. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes, I don't want to be sociable. But being able to sit here and talk to you is fantastic, and I really do appreciate it. And if you anyone who subscribes to me on Patreon or anything like that, it's completely humbling to me, and I cannot believe that you guys do that. Some of you do that, not many, but some of you do, and that's, it floors me, and I really do appreciate it. But aside from that, I actually spoke to my ex via text a few weeks ago, just to wish her a happy birthday and make sure everything was okay. And it was, we exchanged a few texts, and I made her laugh. I sent her something that made her laugh, and and then I just let it go. I mean, she stopped. It's one of those where I sent her a text just saying, she sent me something, I replied, and then she never replied back to that. So I'm like, well, I'm not being that guy. I'm not texting. That's not healthy. I'm not constantly texting her. That's not healthy. I may miss her, but there's a reason why we're not together, and just because she didn't want to be together, and the day I left, I texted her saying, thank you for having breakfast with me, and she said, no worries, I was glad to send you off, with a smile or happily, or whatever, said something like that, and I just thought, really? After all that, okay. So don't get me wrong. I'm not like holding out hope or anything. I'm not trying to, that's gone, and I'm fully aware that it's gone. It's just hard to move on. Because it wasn't just a woman. It was a situation. It was a life that I'm now not going to get to live, And I'm still applying for stuff in America, by the way. I'm still applying for jobs in America as teaching. So, for all I know, I'll end up there one day, and I'll end up teaching, and you never know. Because I would love to live over there. I know people say, oh, this and that, but I don't agree. It's the place where I was probably the best place to live, one of the best places to live in the world, and that's where I want to get back to. And I want to earn good money, and I want to raise a family, and I want to find someone to, settle down with, and I don't want to settle, because for all of her faults, she could be neurotic and kind of controlling and hypocritical at times, and really overbearing with certain things, but she was still an amazing woman, and she set my mind on fire, and she was gorgeous to look at too, and I'm not settling for anything less than that. I mean, why should I? I've already had it once. Why would I? It would be unfair on the person I was settling with. I'd end up resenting them. So it's so even from the relationship standpoint, it's difficult, because I go into situations, and if someone doesn't immediately start working my brain, makes me think, ooh, I like this, that I let them go gently. I'm like, look, I don't think it's going to work out, and blah blah. Um, I'm always respectful, of course, but I just can't hack it, I needed to take a step back from dating for a while. I think I'm ready now. I think, but yeah, for a good while there, I needed to, just melt my brain a bit, and anyway, I've spoken for 42 minutes now, so I should probably piss off. Thank you very much for watching, and I apologise if you've heard that story before. I won't go into any more detail about it, because I don't need to. Like, that's what happened, and that's how I'm feeling right now. I'm having a bad day today, because it's Thanksgiving, and I wish I was over there with them, celebrating and not being alone. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll speak to you next time.